Commander Jake Morrison stared at the massive space station ahead of them. It looked like a giant crystal flower floating in space, with hundreds of ships coming and going like busy insects. He had never seen anything like it before. First time. "Seeing the Galactic Council Station," said Dr. Lisa Adams, walking up beside him. She was the lead scientist on their ship, Earth's Pride. "Hard to believe we're really here." Jake nodded. 3 months ago, humans had received their first message from aliens. The message was simple: "Welcome to the galaxy. Come meet us." Now here they were, representing all of humanity at their first meeting with alien races. Captain Ben Rogers joined them at the viewing window. "The alien ships are keeping their distance," he said. "Notice that?" Jake looked closer. Ben was right. Every time their ship moved, the alien vessels nearby seemed to drift away. It was subtle, but it was there. Maybe they're just being polite. Lisa suggested, but she didn't sound convinced. Their ship docked at the station with a soft thud. Jake straightened his uniform and checked his weapon. The aliens had said this was a peaceful meeting, but old habits died hard. The airlock opened with a hiss. The first thing Jake noticed was the smell, like flowers mixed with metal. The second thing he noticed was how quiet everything became when they stepped out. The docking bay was huge, filled with creatures Jake had only imagined in dreams. There were tall, thin beings made of what looked like living crystal, floating jellyfish-like, creatures with glowing tentacles, massive armored things that looked like walking tanks. But they all stopped what they were doing when the humans appeared. "Welcome, humans of Earth," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. A crystal being approached them, its body catching the light like a prism. "I am Speaker Veltar of the Zephyrian Collective. We are honored by your presence." Jake stepped forward. "Thank you for inviting us. I'm Commander Morrison. This is Dr. Adams and Captain Rogers. Please follow me to the council chamber," Veltar said as they walked through the station. Jake noticed more strange behavior. The big armored aliens, someone had called them Karthik warriors, actually stepped back when humans got close. These were supposed to be the toughest fighters in the galaxy, but they moved away like the humans carried some disease. "Is something wrong?" Lisa asked one of the floating jellyfish creatures. "Wrong? No, nothing wrong," it replied quickly. "We are simply giving you space. Yes, space to be comfortable." The council chamber was enormous. Hundreds of different alien species sat in a great circle. At the center, a hologram of Earth slowly rotated. "Humans of Earth," announced a new voice. "You have been granted the status of protected species by unanimous vote of the Galactic Council." Protected? From what? Ben asked. The chamber fell silent. Jake could feel the tension in the air like electricity before a storm. "From dangers," Veltar said carefully. "The galaxy can be a dangerous place for new species. We will help keep you safe." "That's very kind," Jake said. "But we've been keeping ourselves safe for a long time." Something like nervous laughter rippled through the chamber. Jake frowned. What was funny about that? Over the next few hours, they learned about the different alien races. The Zephyrians were peaceful traders. The Void Swimmers were master engineers. The Karthik were warriors who protected weaker species. Everyone seemed friendly enough, but Jake kept noticing the same thing. They all kept their distance. During a break in the meetings, Lisa pulled Jake aside. "I've been watching them," she whispered. "They're afraid of us." "Afraid? Why would they be afraid of us?" "Look at them. Some of these guys could step on us without noticing. I don't know why, but I'm sure of it. Look at their body language, the way they position themselves. They're all ready to run." Jake looked around the chamber. Now that Lisa pointed it out, he could see it too. The aliens were being polite, even friendly, but they were also scared. That night, Back on their ship, Ben called Jake to the communications room. "You need to hear this," he said, his face grim. Ben played a recording of alien communications they had intercepted. The translation was rough, but the meaning was clear. "The sleepers stir in the deep void," one voice said. "It is because of them," another replied. "The humans, their presence calls to the old hunger. We must hope the barriers hold. If the devourers wake fully, do not speak of it. Prepare the defense fleets, but tell no one why." The recording ended. Jake, Lisa, and Ben sat in silence. "Devourers?" Lisa whispered. "What are devourers?" "Something they're afraid of," Jake said. "Something they think we might wake up." "But we just got here," Ben protested. "We haven't done anything." Jake stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there in the dark, something ancient was stirring. And somehow, just by existing, humans had disturbed its sleep. "We need to find out what we're dealing with," Jake said. "Because if there's something out there that scares these aliens, we need to know about it." The next morning brought new meetings with the council. They discussed trade agreements and cultural exchanges. They talked about human colonies and alien technology. But underneath all the friendly words, Jake could feel the fear. The aliens wanted to keep humans safe, but not out of kindness. They wanted to keep humans contained. They were hoping that if they could control where humans went and what they did, maybe the things in the dark would go back to sleep. But Jake had a feeling it was already too late for that dot as their ship prepared to leave the station. Veltar approached them one last time. "Commander Morrison," the crystal being said, "may I offer some advice?" "Of course. Stay close to your home systems for now. Do not venture too far into the deep void. There are old things there. Things best left undisturbed." "What kind of things?" Jake asked. Veltar's crystal body dimmed. "Things that hunt. Things that feed. Things that have been sleeping for a very long time." The crystal alien walked away without another word, leaving Jake with more questions than answers. As Earth's pride pulled away from the station, Jake made a decision. The aliens might want to keep humans in the dark about whatever was out there. But that wasn't going to happen. Humans had never been good at staying where they were told to stay. Whatever these devourers were, humanity was going to find out about them. And if they were as dangerous as the aliens seemed to think, then humans were going to be ready for them. The galaxy might have its apex predators, but it had never met humans before. And humans had their own ideas about who should be afraid of whom. 6 months had passed since the first meeting with the Galactic Council. Admiral Kate Sullivan sat in her command chair aboard the battleship New York, reading reports that made her blood run cold. "Another system gone dark," reported Lieutenant. Commander Ryan Murphy, walking up with a data pad. "That makes 12 in the past month." Kate studied the star map on the main screen. Red dots marked the dead systems, forming a rough pattern spreading outward from the galaxy's core. Each dot represented billions of lives that had simply vanished. "Any word from the Council?" she asked. "They're being tight-lipped," Ryan said. "But our intelligence suggests they're moving their defense fleets to the outer rim, away from the dead zones." "They're running," Kate said quietly. "The whole galaxy is running from something." The bridge communications officer looked up from her station. "Admiral, we're getting a priority message from Earth Command. They're ordering all exploration vessels to return to human space immediately." Kate frowned. "All of them?" "Yes, ma'am." Something about increased security measures. Kate made a decision that would change everything. Belay that order. Signal the scout ships to maintain their positions. And get me a direct line to the exploration. Vessel horizon. "Ma'am, Earth Command specifically said—" "I know what they said," Kate interrupted. "But if something is killing entire star systems, I want to know what it is before it reaches us." 2 days later, The exploration vessel Horizon reached the edge of the Kepler 442 system, one of the first to go dark. Marine Colonel Ryan Murphy led a joint expedition team that included both humans and aliens. The Karthak warrior Groktar stood beside Ryan, his massive armored form trembling slightly. "This is not wise," the alien said. "We should not be here." "Relax." "Big guy," said Sergeant Tony Blake, checking his rifle. "We're just taking a look." Dr. Amy Carter, the expedition psychologist, noticed how the alien team members huddled together. "They're terrified," she whispered to Ryan. "I've never seen panic like this." As their shuttle approached the system's inner planets, they found the first sign of what had happened. Where the colony world of New Haven should have been, there was only empty space. The entire planet was gone, leaving behind a strange dark cloud that seemed to absorb light. "Sensors show massive energy readings," reported the pilot. "But the signatures are unlike anything in our databases." "Take us closer," Ryan ordered. "Sir, the alien crew is requesting we withdraw," the pilot said. "They say it's not safe." "We didn't come here to be safe," Tony said, grinning. "We came here to see what ate a planet." As they approached the dark cloud, something began to take shape within it. It was huge, bigger than their shuttle, bigger than most ships. It looked like a cross between a jellyfish and a spider, made of shadow and malevolent energy. The alien crew members began making sounds of terror. The Karthak warrior actually fell to his knees. But the humans pressed forward, fascinated by the impossible creature. "It's beautiful," Amy whispered, staring at the being of pure darkness. Terrifying, but beautiful. The creature seemed to notice them. It turned, and Ryan could feel its attention like a physical weight. The aliens on the shuttle were paralyzed with fear, but the humans remained functional. "It's trying to communicate," Amy said, studying her instruments. "Or maybe ... feeding." The dark being reached out with tendrils of shadow, touching the shuttle's hull. The aliens screamed, but the humans just watched with interest. "I can feel it," Amy said. "It's trying to feed on our fear." But ... But what?" Ryan asked. "But I'm not afraid," Amy said, surprised. "I'm angry. This thing destroyed a whole world, killed billions of people. I'm furious." The creature recoiled as if burned. Its tendrils pulled back from the shuttle, and it made a sound like breaking glass. "Did you see that?" Tony laughed. "It didn't like." Amy getting mad at it. Dr. Amy Carter ran scans on the creature's energy patterns. "It feeds on fear and despair," she said. "But human emotions are different. We don't just feel afraid. We feel angry, defiant, protective." The creature tried again to feed on the shuttle's occupants, but every time it touched a human mind, it seemed to get hurt. The humans were feeling the wrong emotions for its purposes. "We need to leave," begged the Karthak warrior. "Please." "We must leave now." "In a minute," Ryan said. "Amy, can you tell what this thing wants?" "It wants to feed," Amy replied, still studying her readings. "But not just on fear, on hopelessness. It wants its victims to give up completely." Tony Blake stood up and walked to the shuttle's window. He stared directly at the massive creature and did something no other species in the galaxy had ever done when facing a DEVOURER. He flipped it off. The creature writhed in what looked like pain. Its dark form began to fade, retreating back into the cloud of destroyed matter. "Well, that was educational," Tony said, sitting back down. The shuttle returned to the New York, where Admiral Kate Sullivan listened to their report with growing understanding. "So these devourers feed on fear and despair," she said. "But humans don't respond to cosmic horror the way other species do." "That's right," Amy confirmed. "When faced with something that should terrify us into submission, we tend to get angry and stubborn instead." Kate looked at the star map, watching the red dots spread across the galaxy. The aliens know this, don't they? That's why they're afraid of us. Not because we're dangerous to them, but because we're dangerous to the things they're afraid of. The Devourers have been sleeping for thousands of years, Ryan said. The aliens evolved to hide from them, to feel the proper fear when they appear. But humans evolved on a world without cosmic predators. We never learned to submit to things bigger than us. Kate made another decision that would echo through the galaxy. Send a message to Earth Command. Tell them we need to mobilize the entire fleet. Ma'am? If the galaxy has a cosmic horror problem, then they need specialists. And it looks like humans are the galaxy's natural monster hunters. The message went out across human space within the hour. For the first time in human history, they weren't being called to war against other humans. They were being called to fight for an entire galaxy, against creatures that fed on the despair of civilizations. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers. Civilian ships were converted to carry weapons and supplies. Entire colonies voted to redirect their production to support the war effort. But the most important response came from the human military academies, where a new doctrine was being written. When facing cosmic horror, the manual read, remember that you are human. You are descended from persistence hunters who chased mammoths across ice fields. You are the children of people who looked at the ocean and decided to cross it. You are the inheritors of a species that has never met a problem it couldn't solve by being too stubborn to quit. The galaxy has apex predators that feed on fear and despair, but they have never encountered a species that responds to impossible odds by getting angry and refusing to give up. Remember, when something cosmic and terrible appears, you are not supposed to feel awe or terror. You are supposed to feel annoyed that it's in your way. Admiral Kate Sullivan smiled as she read the new manual. The galaxy's monsters were about to learn why humanity had never developed a proper sense of cosmic horror. They were about to meet the one species that looked at things that should not exist and said, "So what? We've got work to do." Ambassador Helen Price walked through the halls of the Galactic Council Station, but everything was different now. Where once there had been hundreds of different species mingling freely, now there were empty corridors and closed chambers. The great station felt like a tomb. She found Speaker Veltar in the Emergency Command Center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the spreading darkness across the galaxy. 27 systems had gone dark in the past 2 weeks. "Speaker Veltar," Helen said, "we need to talk." The crystal being's light was dim with exhaustion. "Ambassador Price, I was hoping you would come. The human fleet is mobilizing," Helen said, "but we need information. What exactly are these devourers?" Veltar was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice carried the weight of ages. "They are the reason we exist, Ambassador. Every species in this galaxy evolved in their shadow." Helen sat down, preparing for a long story. "Millions of years ago," Veltar began, "the Devourers ruled this galaxy. They were beings of pure malevolence, feeding on the life force and fear of entire civilizations. They would descend upon worlds like a plague, consuming not just bodies, but souls, hope, the very will to exist. What stopped them? Nothing stopped them, Veltar said. They simply went to sleep when they had consumed enough. Every species that survived did so by learning to hide, to feel appropriate terror, to submit when the cosmic predators appeared. Those who fought back were consumed first. Helen began to understand. So every intelligent species in the galaxy carries genetic memories of hiding from cosmic predators. Precisely. When we encounter something that should inspire cosmic dread, every fiber of our being tells us to submit, to hide, to feel the fear that might make us unpalatable to the great devourers. But humans didn't evolve here. No, Beltar said, his crystal form flickering. Humans evolved on a world without cosmic predators. You developed as persistence hunters, pack predators, who became more dangerous when cornered. When you encounter cosmic horror, you do not feel the proper fear. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Commander Steve Parker was learning this lesson firsthand. His mixed fleet of human and alien ships had reached the Zephyrian homeworld just as a massive devourer began feeding on the planet's population. The creature was enormous, a writhing mass of shadow and hunger that stretched across the planet's atmosphere like a living storm. Below, billions of Zephyrians huddled in terror, their crystal bodies dim with despair. All alien vessels are reporting crew paralysis, his communications officer reported. They can't function in the creature's presence. Steve looked at his tactical display. The human ships were still operational, their crews annoyed rather than terrified by the cosmic horror above the planet. Well, Steve said, looks like it's up to us. All human vessels, this is Parker. That thing down there is eating our friends. Anyone else think that's unacceptable? The response came back immediately from dozens of human captains. Damn right it's unacceptable. Let's kill this thing. Nobody eats our allies but us, and only at poker games. Steve smiled. Fleet, engage the target. Show this cosmic horror what happens when it messes with our friends. The human ships opened. Fire with everything they had. Nuclear missiles, particle beams, kinetic projectiles, all aimed at the massive creature feeding on the planet below. The devourer reeled back, confused. In millions of years of existence, nothing had ever attacked it directly. Everything cowered, everything submitted, everything accepted its fate, but not these strange newcomers. On the planet's surface, Dr. Nicole Green was conducting her own experiment. She had been studying the devourer's feeding mechanisms and made a remarkable discovery. The creature's energy patterns spike when it encounters fear and despair, she reported to the fleet. But when it touches human neural patterns, the readings go chaotic. What does that mean? Steve asked. It means we're giving it indigestion, Nicole said with satisfaction. Human emotions are toxic to it. Our stubbornness, our anger, our refusal. To submit, it's like poison to something that feeds on surrender. The battle above the planet continued for hours. The devourer tried repeatedly to feed on the human crews, but every attempt left it weaker. Human emotions were the wrong flavor, the wrong type of energy. Instead of nourishing fear, it was consuming defiance, rage, and protective fury. It's retreating, reported Captain Lisa Santos from the destroyer Phoenix. The thing is actually backing off. But Steve Parker wasn't satisfied with retreat. All ships pursue the target. We're not letting this thing escape to attack someone else. The human fleet chased the cosmic horror across 3 star systems, harassing it with constant weapons. Fire and broadcasting human war songs on all frequencies. The devourer, for the first time in its existence, experienced something new. It was afraid. Back on the council station, Speaker Veltar was sharing more of the galaxy's dark history with Ambassador Helen Price. There are hundreds of them, he explained. The devourers we've detected so far are just the scouts, the smaller ones. At the galaxy's core sleeps their queen, a being of such malevolent power that entire star systems would go dark just from her awakening dreams. How did the galaxy survive before? Helen asked. By hiding, by making ourselves small and unnoticed, by developing technology that could mask our presence. We built this civilization in the spaces between their attention. Helen stood up, her expression determined. Well, that's not how humans do things. What do you mean? Humans don't hide from predators, Helen said. We hunt them. We make them afraid of us. Veltar's crystal form pulsed with something that might have been hope. You truly believe you can fight them? Speaker, let me tell you something about humans, Helen said. We are a species that looked at the apex predators of our world, creatures with claws and fangs and venom, and decided we wanted to pet them. We domesticated wolves. We swim with sharks. We keep snakes as companions. But these are cosmic entities. So what? Helen interrupted. Big or small, a predator is a predator. And humans have never met a predator we couldn't figure out how to deal with. As if to prove her point, a message came through from Commander Parker's fleet. They had successfully driven off the Devourer, attacking the Zephyrian homeworld. More importantly, they had learned that the creatures could be hurt, could be frightened, could be made to retreat. The galaxy has lived in fear of these things for millions of years, Helen continued. But humans don't do fear properly. We do spite. We do stubbornness. We do hold my beer and watch this. Speaker Veltar was quiet for a long moment. What do you propose? We propose that the galaxy stops running and starts fighting back. With human help, of course. And if you fail? If the Devourers prove too powerful? Helen smiled with the confidence of a species that had climbed to the top of the food chain on a death world. Then we'll make sure they remember that they had a fight. But honestly, Speaker, I don't think they're ready for what humans consider a fair fight. Across the galaxy, word was spreading through both human and alien channels. The cosmic horrors were real, they were active, and they could be fought. For the first time in millions of years, the galaxy's civilizations had a choice other than hiding. They could fight back. And humanity was showing them how the Devourers had ruled through fear for eons. But they had never encountered a species that treated cosmic horror as a personal insult requiring immediate correction. The emergency session of Earth's government lasted 17 hours. President Linda Carter sat at the head of the table, surrounded by military leaders, scientists, and representatives from every major human colony. The situation is clear, she announced. Our new alien friends are under attack by cosmic predators that have terrorized the galaxy for millions of years. The question is, what do we do about it? General Chris Anderson, head of Earth's military forces, spoke first. Ma'am, our initial engagements show that humans can fight these Devourers effectively. But we're talking about entities that can destroy entire star systems. We need more than just our military. What are you suggesting? President Carter asked. Total mobilization, Anderson replied. Not just military, but civilian. We need every human colony, every ship, every person who can hold a weapon or build one. Dr. Ashley Thompson, the government's chief xenobiologist, nodded. My research confirms what we've seen in combat. Human neural patterns are actually toxic to these creatures. They've evolved to feed on the fear and despair that other species feel when facing cosmic horror. But humans don't respond that way. We get angry, added Admiral Kate Sullivan, joining the meeting via hologram from her flagship. We get protective. We get stubborn. And all of those emotions seem to cause the Devourers actual pain. President Carter looked around the table. So you're telling me that humanity's natural response to cosmic horror is exactly what these creatures can't handle? That's correct, Dr. Thompson confirmed. Other species evolved to hide from cosmic predators. Humans evolved to hunt things that were bigger and stronger than us. The vote was unanimous. Within hours, the message went out across all human space. The galaxy needs our help. Volunteers report to the nearest military base. Civilians, prepare for war production. We have monsters to kill. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Captain Joe Patterson had been running cargo between the outer colonies when the call came. He was at the bar on Station Olympus when the recruitment officer made the announcement. We need every ship and every pilot, the officer said. Cargo haulers, passenger liners, private yachts, we can convert them all. The galaxy is under attack, and humanity is the only species that can fight back effectively. Joe didn't hesitate. Where do I sign? Up? Within a week, his cargo ship Lucky Strike had been fitted with military-grade weapons and joined a fleet of converted civilian vessels. Most of the pilots were like him, ordinary people who had volunteered to fight monsters they had never seen for aliens they barely knew. "Why are we doing this?" asked Sarah Kim, the pilot of a converted passenger liner. "These aren't even our people." "Because they're people," Joe replied simply. "And those things are eating them." Meanwhile, human colonies across the galaxy were transforming themselves into weapons factories. On New Texas, the agricultural domes were converted to produce military rations. On Titan Station, the mining equipment was retooled to manufacture ammunition. Every human settlement, no matter how small, found ways to contribute. The aliens watched in amazement as an entire species mobilized for war, not to defend themselves, but to protect strangers. "It is unprecedented," Speaker Veltar reported to the Galactic Council. "Humans are demonstrating pack-bonding behavior on a species-wide level. They have adopted our entire galaxy as part of their pack." But the true test came when the Devourers launched their counterattack. The assault began at the Galactic Council station itself. A massive Devourer, larger than any previously encountered, materialized in the station's vicinity. Its presence alone caused most of the alien crews to collapse in terror. Admiral Greg Foster commanded the defense fleet from the battleship Constitution. Half his ships were crewed by aliens who could barely function in the creature's presence. The other half were human vessels filled with volunteers who had never seen space combat before. "All ships, this is Foster," he announced. "That thing wants to eat our friends. I find that personally offensive. Let's show it what humans think of bullies." The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Devourer tried to feed on the fleet's terror, but the human ships kept fighting. When the creature focused its attention on the paralyzed alien crews, the humans positioned themselves between the monster and their allies. Captain Maria Santos, commanding a converted cargo hauler, found herself face to face with a tendril of living shadow. The thing tried to feed on her fear, but instead encountered something it had never tasted before. "Get away from my friends," Maria snarled, firing her ship's improvised weapons directly into the creature's feeding appendage. The Devourer recoiled, damaged by the unexpected flavor of protective fury. Across the battlefield, the same scene played out dozens of times. Humans putting themselves in harm's way to protect aliens they had known for less than a year. The Devourers, designed to feed on submission and despair, found themselves choking on human defiance and loyalty. Dr. Ashley Thompson, monitoring the battle from Earth, made a crucial discovery. "The creatures are weakening," she reported. "Not just from our weapons, but from our emotions. Human protective instincts are like acid to beings that feed on abandonment and despair." The battle turned when the human volunteers began singing. It started with the crew of the Lucky Strike. Captain Joe Patterson, facing down a cosmic horror that could have swallowed his ship whole, began singing an old Earth song about standing together against the darkness. Other human crews joined in, their voices carrying across the communication channels. The effect on the mice Devourer was immediate and catastrophic. The creature, which had fed on the lonely despair of countless civilizations, was suddenly surrounded by a species that refused to face the dark alone. "It's retreating," reported Admiral Foster, amazement in his voice. "The thing is actually running away." But the humans weren't done. Led by Foster's battleship, the entire fleet pursued the fleeing Devourer, harassing it with weapons fire and broadcasting human war songs on all frequencies. "This is for every world you've destroyed," Foster announced. "This is for every species you've terrorized." And this is because nobody messes with our friends. The cosmic horror fled into the deep void, carrying with it news that would spread to every devourer in the galaxy. There was a new species in the galaxy, and they were not afraid. Back on the council station, the alien representatives gathered to witness something unprecedented. For the first time in millions of years, a devourer had been driven off not by hiding or submission, but by direct confrontation. "How?" asked a Karthek warrior. His voice filled with wonder. Ambassador Helen Price smiled. "Because humans don't abandon their friends. When you attack someone we care about, you're not just fighting us. You're fighting everyone we've ever decided to protect." "And how many is that?" asked Speaker Veltar. Helen looked around the chamber at the dozens of alien species, all of whom humanity had known for less than a year, all of whom humans were now willing to die to defend. "All of you," she said simply. "Every single one of you." The word spread across the galaxy within days. Humanity had not just fought the devourers, they had won. More importantly, they had shown that the cosmic predators could be beaten, could be frightened, could be made to run. For the first time in millions of years, the galaxy's civilizations began to hope that they might not have to live in fear forever. And, in the deep void, ancient intelligences that had fed on despair for eons began to experience something new and terrifying. They began to feel afraid. The call came at 0300 hours, ship time. Colonel Mary Phillips was awakened by her communication device, buzzing with an emergency signal from Earth Command. "Colonel, we need you to assemble a strike team," said Admiral Kate Sullivan's voice through the speaker. "Long-range sensors have detected massive energy buildups at the galaxy's core. The big one is waking up." Mary sat up in her bunk, aboard the assault ship Valkyrie. "The Queen?" "The Devourer Queen herself. Satellite imagery shows space-time distortions spanning entire star systems. If she fully awakens, the galaxy is finished." Mary was already putting on her uniform. "What's the plan?" "We take the fight to her before she can fully wake up. You'll have a mixed fleet, humans and aliens working together." "But Mary," Kate's voice was grim, "the alien crews won't be able to function once we get close to the Queen. This is going to be mostly humans going up against a cosmic entity that's older than most stars." "Understood," Mary replied. "We'll handle it." Within 6 hours, the largest fleet in galactic history had assembled at the edge of the core systems. Ships from every human colony and alien world flew together in an armada that stretched across space like a metal constellation. Captain Rick Thompson commanded the flagship Terra's Wrath, a massive battleship equipped with humanity's most advanced weapons. Beside him, ships piloted by converted cargo haulers, pleasure craft owners, and retired military officers formed the core of the assault force. "All vessels, this is Thompson," he announced. "We're about to face something that has terrified the galaxy for millions of years. It feeds on fear, despair, and the feeling that resistance is hopeless." He paused, looking at the readings that showed the Queen's massive presence ahead of them. "Good thing we're humans, then, because we've never met a problem we couldn't solve by being too stubborn to quit." The first sign of the Queen's power came when they reached the outer edge of the galactic core. Space itself seemed wrong there, twisted by malevolent intelligence. The alien crews immediately began showing signs of the cosmic terror their species had evolved to feel. Dr. Lara Martinez, monitoring the fleet's psychological state, reported the situation to Colonel Phillips. "The alien crews are shutting down. Their genetic programming is overwhelming their conscious minds. They literally cannot function in the Queen's presence." "What about the humans?" Mary asked. "The humans are." Lavra paused, checking her readings again. "They're annoyed. Captain Johnson just complained that the space distortions are making his coffee taste funny." As they pushed deeper into the core, the Queen's presence became overwhelming. She was vast beyond imagination, a being of pure malevolent intelligence that had consumed the fear and despair of countless civilizations. Her form was constantly shifting, part shadow, part energy, part something that human minds could barely process. The moment she became aware of the approaching fleet, her attention fell upon them like a physical weight. The alien ships immediately went dead in space, their crews completely paralyzed by cosmic terror, but the human ships kept flying. "Well, that's new," came the voice of Captain Lisa Chun over the communications. "I can feel this thing trying to make me spare, but all I can think about is how ugly it is. Right?" replied Captain Mike Torres from his converted mining vessel. "I mean, if you're going to be a cosmic horror, at least have some style." The Queen, for the first time in millions of years, experienced confusion. These tiny creatures should be cowering before her infinite malevolence. Instead, they seemed to be making jokes. She reached out with tendrils of pure despair, trying to feed on the humans' terror. But instead of the expected fear, she encountered something that burned her like acid. Hope, determination, and above all, a stubborn refusal to give up. "She's trying to feed on us," reported Dr. Martinez. "But human emotions are wrong for her digestive system. We're making her sick." Colonel Mary Phillips made the decision that would end the threat forever. "All human vessels, prepare for final assault. We're going right down her throat." "Ma'am?" came a dozen confused voices. "You heard me. If she wants to eat us, let's give her the worst case of indigestion in galactic history." Captain Rick Thompson understood immediately. "All ships, follow Terra's wrath. We're going to show this thing what happens when you threaten our friends." The human fleet dove directly into the Queen's massive form, weapons blazing. But more than weapons, they carried something the ancient entity had never encountered before. They were singing. It started with the crew of the Lucky Strike again. Captain Joe Patterson, now commanding a ship deep inside a cosmic horror, began singing the same old Earth song about standing together. Within minutes, every human ship had joined in, their voices carried across all communication channels. The effect on the Queen was devastating. She had fed on the isolated terror of billions, but she had never encountered a species that faced cosmic horror as a group, supporting each other with song and shared purpose. "She's destabilizing," reported Dr. Martinez, her voice filled with amazement. "The Queen's energy patterns are collapsing. Human pack bonding behavior is completely incompatible with her feeding mechanisms." But the Queen had one last desperate gambit. She focused all her remaining power into a final psychic assault, trying to break the human spirits by showing them visions of ultimate futility and despair. The visions hit every human in the fleet simultaneously. They saw the heat death of the universe, the meaninglessness of existence, the futility of struggle against cosmic forces. For a moment, the human ships wavered. Then Captain Sarah Lopez, commanding a converted passenger liner filled with volunteers, spoke into the silence. "You know what?" she said. "So what if the universe ends someday? We're not dead yet, and neither are our friends. Let's deal with today's problems today." The response was immediate. Across the fleet, human voices rose in agreement. "Yeah, screw cosmic despair. I've got bills to pay next week anyway. My daughter's birthday is next month. This thing can wait its turn." The Queen's final assault shattered against humanity's most powerful trait, the ability to find meaning and purpose, even in the face of cosmic insignificance. "She's falling apart," Dr. Martinez reported. "The Queen is literally dissolving. Human stubbornness is more than she can process. The ancient entity that had terrorized the galaxy for millions of years collapsed in on herself, destroyed not by superior firepower, but by her complete inability to understand a species that looked at cosmic horror and said, 'Not today.'" As the Queen's form disintegrated, her death scream carried across the galaxy. Every devourer in existence felt their source of power disappear. Smaller devourers throughout the galaxy began fleeing to the dark spaces between stars, no longer the apex predators they had once been. The human fleet regrouped at the edge of the core, their mission accomplished. Around them, alien ships began to come back online as their crews slowly recovered from the psychic shock. "Status report," Colonel Phillips requested. "The Queen is destroyed," reported Captain Thompson. "Devourer activity across the galaxy is dropping to 0. They're running. Casualties? Minor hull damage to 17 ships. 3 cases of indigestion from bad coffee. Captain Martinez reports that her ship's cat knocked over a plant." Mary smiled. "Leave it to humans to face down cosmic horror and come away complaining about minor inconveniences." 6 months later, Ambassador Helen Price stood before the newly reformed Galactic Council. The Great Chamber was full again, with representatives from hundreds of species who no longer lived in fear of cosmic predators. "The Galactic Defense Corps is now operational," she announced. "With human training methods, every species in the galaxy can learn to resist cosmic threats." "What exactly are you teaching them?" asked Speaker Veltar. "Human concepts," Helen replied with a smile. "Stubbornness, pack loyalty. The idea that when someone threatens your friends, you don't run, you fight back. And most importantly, the revolutionary concept that just because something is bigger than you doesn't mean you have to be afraid of it." The Karthik representative Grog Tar raised his massive hand. "We have a question. Now that humans have proven themselves the galaxy's apex predators, what do you intend to do with this power?" Helen looked around the chamber at the dozens of alien species, all of whom were watching humanity with a mixture of gratitude and nervousness. "The same thing we've always done," she said. "Protect our friends, explore new places, and complain when the coffee isn't hot enough." She paused, then added, "Oh, and if any more cosmic horrors show up, we'll deal with those too. We're getting pretty good at it." The galaxy's new apex predators had spoken, and their message was simple. The age of hiding from cosmic threats was over. The age of fighting back had begun. And if anything else wanted to terrorize the galaxy, it would have to go through humanity first. The humans, for their part, were already looking forward to the next challenge. After all, they had a whole universe to explore, and there were probably more monsters out there that needed to learn some manners.